hello you, welcome to Geekism. First of all, before I get started, I'd like to apologise about my slight dulcet tones today, my slight hushed voice. The only time I could get to actually sit down and record the audio for this video is quite late at night, and the whole house is not stirring, not even a mouse. Everyone is tucked up away in bed, so I'm being a little bit chilled out, a little bit quieter than I perhaps usually would be, so I hope I don't send you off to sleep during this video. I have a lot of people comment actually that my voice is quite soothing and they use it to sleep, and I'm never quite sure whether to take it as a compliment or not. But if that's normally you, then this episode probably most definitely will send you off, so apologies in advance. Maybe I'll put some heavy metal or some really high tempo dance music behind me or something. Maybe not. So here we are, we're starting work, actually we're near enough finishing work on the left side of the main area here. Like I said, I'd only say main street because it isn't really a traditional main street, it's more of a just like an open plaza, sort of entrance plaza that is mostly buildings of a utility nature as opposed to sort of fun things and useful things. And usually you find that with these smaller parks, they get all the stuff out of the way that they kind of need to do, so things like toilets, guest services, any pram rentals, lockers, things like that, you know, all this sort of stuff that we are going to cover in this sort of starting area. I haven't actually left much space for lockers. That might be something we have to go back at and look at after this episode actually. But anyway, this episode here we're starting off with a guest services building. So this would be the place where you come to buy season tickets. It would be the place to come if you have any sort of complaints or anything like that. Maybe lost children would come here, you know, that kind of thing. Just like a general sort of here's a sort of front facing office space that you can come and access if you need to for whatever reason. So with that, we're building this sort of counter area here, and behind the counter area will be basically a bit of space for them to sell some stuff as well, because obviously this area is meant to be for you know, people with queries, people with issues, people who are wanting to buy tickets or return next day pass tickets or things like that, but also, you know, they'd be able to sell some merch as well here. So that's what we're going to be doing with the space. Take a little while to line all this up. I wanted to use these new stone pieces from the Spooky Pack. They look really nice and regal. These I've seen a few people use these now. I think a couple of those together, they make a till, basically. They make a cash register and they look fantastic. So we've used those, and then also some smaller cornice pieces, lights and odd little things. Make a sort of card reader or maybe a checkbook space, things like that. We had a few billboards in here, and actually just add the ticket ones there. I need to come back and do something a bit more specific for this room. It's not something I've done yet, but I will go back in there and do maybe like a come back tomorrow, only £5 kind of thing. I know Alton Towers, we were there recently, and not too recently, there was no vlog coming, but when we were there was lots of signs on the way saying, you know, come back tomorrow for just a £5 or whatever. These sci-fi lights make great strip lights. They don't actually give off much light though, so we need to go in with some of the spots and sort of give the impression that these strip lights are giving off light, and they actually look quite nice. So I am trying to make a bit of an effort when it comes to lighting in the park. It's not something I really did in sort of previous series, and I think it does add a lot to it. So I am sort of, every time I box an area off, I am going to go over and do a lighting pass, and also using these marble floors here from the Spooky Pack again. You know, they're great, they look really good, and you know, this is the sort of area that would have a little bit of more money spent on it. You know, a bit of a marble floor, or at least faux marble, would definitely be the kind of thing you would see here, and obviously it gives that really nice reflection on them as well. I've noticed that I'm using a fair bit of the Spooky Pack. I don't mean to. I say I don't mean to, like I don't go out of my way to use the spooky pieces, but I just find so many of them are so useful. When it comes to these sorts of generic builds, because they did a great job of making them relatively generic, to be honest with you. So I find myself using them quite a lot. Here we're adding some little things here onto the shelving. So using fireworks here, these are meant to look like sort of cans or drink bottles or something like that. We've got some of the hats, even though the hats are a little oversized, they work out quite nicely. Here we've got some, I don't know, snow globes or something, and And then we find a few other little some swords there, toy swords, all these stuff that, they'd probably be elsewhere available in the gift shops and stuff like that. But you would have a selection of them here, maybe just some sort of slightly nicer quality stuff, some sort of ornaments and things like that, as opposed to just sort of straight up toys or whatever. And again, a couple of screens on the desk there. I think we might actually just have the one screen in the end. Oh no, a couple of screens there. Again, I will design something in the future to go on there that's something like annual pass pricing or things like that. Next up, we wanted a little bit of a queue line here. Nothing too fancy here, really. It's just to kind of help to just sort of ration the people in, really, and sort of help them figure out how they're queuing. So we do that, keep it nice and simple, very much like the sort of queues you'd find in post offices, things like that, poles with rope in between them that they can move around as they need to. And again, that sign will say something like queue here once I get around to doing it as well. I was originally going to do some individual stuff there myself and sort of go in and get some screenshots of the park. May end up still going back to do that, but I found these ones, remembering that these were in the game from before as well, so I placed a few of those along there as well. I realised that all of them in one go looked a bit too busy, so I ended up sort of knocking it down just to having 2 or 3 of them in the end. There's a bit of a blank area there on the wall where people queue. Wanted to do something with it. Thought sort of a bit of a random sign would look quite good, actually, just sort of something a bit out of place almost, that somebody's designed and hung up there thinking it would look good. So that's what we do here with a bit of a Pinewood sign. I think we actually get rid of the roller coaster bit and just have that there. Yeah, there we go. So this building's got a toilet in, so one, this is the sort of place you would find a toilet, but 2, it also gets people actually walking in and out of there as well, so it makes the space look a bit more usable, which I think works out quite nicely. Neatening up the counter there with the fold down cover, and then we're pretty much near enough done. Moving on to the next part of the building. Again, this is all one long strip building, but here there's a little area that's sort of undercover but set back. And that is for some claw grabber machines that I actually built off camera. Unfortunately, I didn't save the footage for them, I'm afraid, but we'll have a look in a live action bit in a minute and have a good look at them. But I didn't want them to be all in a building. I wanted some of them to be under the cover. This is very much inspired by something I saw at Drayton Manor years ago. I haven't been to Drayton Manor for ages, but in Drayton Manor they had there was a wall, basically a wall of this sort of stuff that were outdoors but undercover, and I wanted to use them for a couple of reasons. One, although I do go on to build a few interiors in this park, I'm not really a mega fan of doing massively detailed interiors, because I find that really, unless you really get down into the camera and have a good look around them, you miss a lot of stuff that's there. So I wanted some of the cool features that we've been making to work on the outside as well. You'll notice there's a coaster there. Please don't get excited, it doesn't last until the end of the video. It's purely there for me to get a bit of an idea about boxing off this next area. So this is roughly where the coaster's going to be. Okay, but this isn't the coaster we're going to be using. We are going to be using a wooden coaster. It's probably going to look very similar to this one, in fact, but this one is purely here to help me sort of box off this area and also the area that we ended up filling in a live stream, which I'll show you at the end of this video as well, because this video was recorded in 2 parts, one of it before a live stream, one of it after a live stream. So this is a little bit all over the place, but unfortunately with Planet Coaster I play when I get to play, so sometimes it's a little bit all over the place. So yeah, that's what I was doing there, just building that area out. Also getting a bit of height variation in there as well, which is something a few people have mentioned now, is that they want to see a little bit more height variation in the park. So there we've just got a little bit of a dip down. There's not going to be anything major until we sort of start getting towards the back of the park where they've started to struggle a bit more for space. This first area is very much going to be a sort of space that's going to be cleared out. I know it's called Pinewood Hills. There is going to be a Pinewood. There are going to be hills, but it's not very realistic to expect a theme park to be built on a hill. There are some theme parks out there that are built in pretty crazy spaces. There are other places. I know Dudley Zoo, for instance, is built on this ridiculous hill, but for the most part, the theme parks use like flattened land, or at least land with sort of slight variations in terrain. So here we're building a sort of main bit for the episode, and that is an amusement arcade. This is something I wanted to do for a long time. Actually, when I sat down to play Planet Coaster this week, I'd got it in my head that I was going to build some midway games. And if you don't know what midway games are, it's a term used for anything that's like 3 goes for £1, win a teddy type thing. So get the ball in the bucket, pop the balloons, or throw a dart at a playing card, all that sort of stuff. All the stuff that's very weighted to the house, but it's not necessarily rigged, but very weighted to the house. But some people are able to win teddy bears or toys and things like that. That's what a midway game is. So I had actually sat down to plan to work on a series of midway games that are going to could be placed in that lower section that we've just built opposite the coaster, which is again very much taken from a real life park. Very much Alton Towers has where Rita Queen of Speed is. Opposite there is pretty much a row of midway. In fact, a lot of them turned into restaurant food outlets now, but originally when it was Ugland, it was a huge row of midway. So that was the idea there. Before I started doing them, I popped onto Twitter to have a look around, and Ruble Trillions, a fantastic creator, has built an awesome set of midway for No Name Landia, which is the Bro Coaster series, and he's put them on the workshop for people to use. So I mentioned it to my Discord server and said, how would you feel about me using other people's stuff in the park? I kind of really want to get your feedback on this, and pretty much unanimously, everyone said go for it. If it's a utility style build like that, don't be throwing down other people's roller coasters and stuff, but for utility style stuff like that, stuff you find in a lot of parks, if it's already been done good, then there's no real need for you to spend your time doing it. And the ones that Ruble have done are fantastic. So I am going to be dropping those in. I'm going to be doing a bit of work to them just to get them a little bit of a variant on them and to give my own little twist on them a little bit, only because I feel like I'd be shortchanging you if I didn't. They are absolutely perfect as they are, but I feel like I want to have a little play with them just because I think I'd enjoy doing that. So we are going to do that. Anyway, the reason I'm telling you all this is because I had sat down to do midway, seeing as they have already been done, and I got in the mood for sort of games and competition type stuff. I thought I'd build an arcade. So we've gone a bit more interior and a bit more smaller, and you'll see we built those grab claw machines there. Unfortunately, I don't have the footage for them for some reason, but I do have the footage for the other bits and bobs that I've built. So here's the first one. I'm not going to tell you what they are. I think you can have a fun little game with yourself and see if you can guess what it is I'm building. So here's the first piece. I'm going to place 2 of these in, and we have to use some of these cool icing pieces to really get the look of them. I think this turns out really quite nicely actually. And excuse me, I'm just going to grab a drink real quick. I think this turns out really nicely, and I'm really happy with some of my uses of pieces here to give a sort of overarching idea of what we're building. I feel like I'm getting really into the swing of things now with this small build style and sort of understated build style as well. It was something that I've been really sort of battling, but I feel like I'm starting to make headway now with it. It's really satisfying, and it's something that I moan about a lot with other people in the Planco community. And it wasn't something I really realised until I started this park, but there's a real issue with scale in this game. Stuff is just massive, and I know I've mentioned it before, but there is something saying that there's something really satisfying about building something that's on a bit of a smaller scale, a bit more sort of peep style size, and I think it's actually quite satisfying to do it. And I worry sometimes that if they did give us things like custom content, user-generated content, or scale sliders, or custom textures, things like that, you'd lose a lot of the charm of the channel, because what's the point in making something like this foosball table out of rope and bits of art shapes if somebody who's good in Maya or Blender or whatever can just make one, So I still feel like user-generated content will be very good for the game, but part of me thinks that actually, a lot of the fun is trying to craft this stuff out of things that are just not meant to be used that way. For instance, using icing pieces here to create the little players on there. So we have a couple of those. Next up, I wanted to do a real standard of the UK arcade machine. This is. And this kind of goes through as a second pass. This one does. We start off trying to use these glass pieces, they're too dark. You can't see through them well enough, and all the detail you do behind them is lost. So I actually get rid of it in a moment, but this build actually goes through multiple passes. The first pass I do, which is what you see here in the time lapse, is when I felt like it was finished, and I actually posted it to a Discord group that I'm in that is just YouTube and Twitch Planco content creators. Just wanted a little bit of advice, not actually about the build itself, more so as to whether or not these things exist outside of the UK, because I had a vague feeling that these might be very sort of UK centric, and I wanted to have a bit of an idea if my sort of mainland European and American followers were going to have an absolute clue as to what I was building here. Luckily they do. Thank you very much to Commander Santa and S. Down Wolf, who said, yep, these totally exist in the States. Here's a few examples of them, and they shared some pictures of them. One thing I realised was that they're actually quite a lot more detailed than I remembered them. I tried to build it from memory, but when I actually started looking online, they're actually a lot more detailed than I'd recall them being. So I do actually go back and recreate them. If you haven't guessed by now, we're building a coin pusher. I don't really know what the proper name for them is, but a coin pusher machine. They use those two moving platforms back and forth. You place a coin in the top, it rolls down and hopefully sort of groups up with others and pushes them forward. If you're from the UK, I'm sure you'll know the quiz TV show Tipping Point. That's basically a giant one of these, and I had real fun building it actually. And again, using that candy piece that we used for the popcorn machine, I'm getting a lot of joy out of using pieces for random things like this that they're just not built for at all. And I'm finding it really satisfying to be able to sort of create these scenery pieces with stuff that, like I say, it's just not built for. And I think it's the big charm of Planet Coaster, and I think it's the reason why after a year it's still doing so well and there's still so many people playing it and spending hours in it, is that at no point, apart from some of the building options, with walls and roofs and things like that, at no point does it say, no, you can't do that, that's not what this is for. It's more, it says, yeah, here you go, here's a candy piece, you want to make it look bronze, lower it down and make it look like a pile of 2p pieces, go for it, fill your boots. So this is pretty much the end of this build, apart from adding in the sort of I don't know what you'd call them really, the pins that the coin falls on along the back there. This shape works perfectly as it sticks through front and back, and then adding a bit of a sign around it. I called it Gold Rush, and place it in there and there, and again we do the same on the other side, and then we absolutely cover it in fairy lights, because these things, they're just absolutely covered in bulbs. These sort of rides, these sort of games and stuff in arcades, they're just covered, absolutely covered. So all that we do here is cover it in fairy lights. A little bit of clipping going on here with the art-shaped pieces, so I'm just spending a bit of time lining those up properly so that all these lights shine through just right. And I think the last thing we do, we just add some white lights along there as well. Again, these things just need to be covered in bulbs. So that's pretty much it. I think the last thing I do is just squeeze this out a little bit, spread it out a little bit so the little bits of wire from the fairy lights aren't clipping out. Little things like that sometimes, you build the shape, but then because of these lights you have to go back and just redo that shape ever so slightly. And the side here, I had the idea of using some of these neon pieces. We've used it occasionally in other builds. You can just place them into something and just the neon itself will shine through. It gives you a real easy way of creating some cool decal sides here for this machine. And then just moving the cash boxes a little there, just because they were just clipping a little after we placed in those wooden bars. And that's pretty much it. I was considering using billboards in the back here, but I decided against it in the end. I thought, no, do you know what, for the slight thing they do, I don't really think it's adding too much to it, and I really like to be able to see those pins there a little bit clearer. So we've placed that into the arcade. We're building one more thing. Well, actually we're building about 5 or 6 more things, but they're all based on this one unit. So you'll see this one's pretty easy to tell what it is straight away, I think. But again, I'm really happy with how this turned out, using as few pieces as possible to really give the impression of what it's meant to be. And of course, as you know by now, I'm kind of obsessed with billboards at the minute. Any place I can get a billboard in there to give you that slight little extra bit of sort of what's the word, sort of bespoke nature to it, I guess, you know. So we stick a billboard in there, and you'll see in a little while what the billboards go on to become. And again, if you haven't guessed already, this is an arcade cabinet, a traditional sort of video game arcade cabinet. Looking for something here we can use as a wheel, because I'd like to do a stand-up driving game, something like the original Outrun. Found that light works pretty well, but for now at least we're going to start off with some basic sort of typical joystick and a few buttons. This piece here, I'm finding this is fast becoming the new snowman pipe. The billboard screen bracket, the small bracket, I've used it a lot so far. Here it's been used for the the joystick, excuse me, and the buttons. Then we've got a bit of space there for the coin collecting area. And then we're going to just duplicate it across and change out a few of the colours. Unfortunately, it's too small to actually get a sign in the top there to actually name the thing. So we kind of have to use our imagination a little bit there. Here we design one based on Marble Madness, and here we start working on the stand-up driving simulator, using this cool light here as a steering wheel. Fortunately, all the wheels are just a bit too big, and we need to add a little bit to the bottom of this one, a kick plate with gas and brake pedals, and we'll just change the colour. And then finally, I wanted to do an extra large one, and this is very much based on like a Time Crisis or something like that, you know, a big sort of dual shooting game that two people can play at the same time. So again, I've spoken about it before, repurposing stuff. Here, you know, we've made the one basic shape. We've done 3 or 4 recolors. We've stretched this one out a little bit to give us a completely new design. You know, you can come in here and change these ever so slightly and get maybe 5, 6, 7 different variations of each one, and kind of depending on the color scheme you use and the billboard that you place onto the screen itself, these can all be multiple games. Here I'm looking for something I can use as a gun. Finally found one of these, seems about right. A holstered gun. This one is actually long enough. We call it Shooty Cops. I don't know why. It's just about long enough to actually add a sign into it. So this one gets a name sign. I remembered that we had a Chief B light, but it was too big. Anyway, let's cut to a real-time view so we can have a look at all of this in real action. Right, here we go then. Do a little quick overview of everything we've done in that episode. The eagle-eyed of you will have spotted this area as well. So we are going to be doing this here. Thank you all for the suggestions here. The kind of resounding vote was for sort of like an old storage area, bits of old coaster, maybe a few old coaster cars made out of art shapes, that sort of thing. You know, planks, fences, barrels, tins of paint, that sort of stuff, which I think is a great idea. So we're going to be working on that pretty soon. This is what we actually did in a live stream. This is why the coaster was there, because I really wanted to see the sort of the side, the line side that the coaster would come through. So the coaster's going to sit at the back of here, and we did this Pinewood logo here. You know, it's pretty, it's nice, it's made out of flowers, a little bit run down. It could probably do with a little bit of TLC. And it was set to night time as well. We lit it up, but unfortunately some of the lights don't actually work very well. In fact, one of them actually flickers. I need to set it so it's a little bit more common going off, but one of them actually flickers. It's set to go off with the carousel. So you'll see as the carousel loads up now. Hold on. It's a little thing, but I do actually think like it's worth doing. So now you'll see as the carousel sets off now, one of the lights here flickers a little as it goes. Hopefully, should do. Or maybe it's not. Maybe, did I get rid of it? Oh, I don't think I got rid of it. Let's have a look. Triggers. Edit trigger sequence. No, does it look? Yeah, there you go. So it does do it. It must just be relatively random. It's just the sort of thing, you know, occasionally the light has a bit of a flicking attack there. Anyway, we'll stay in nighttime for a moment because I think this place actually looks pretty good at night now. So here we go. It's our guest services. Still got to do these billboards. Like I say, I will be doing that soon enough. Comes down to a regular toilet down there. Then we've got some ATMs, we've got a couple of vending machines again. We have our first set of these. These may actually go. This may well become a locker area. I think is probably what we're going to end up doing with this little space. But then we've got a bit of signage here. We've got this awesome, really garish, over the top sort of Art Deco style sign that would not work anywhere else, but I think here actually works out quite nicely. Need to do a little bit of a lighting pass on this, but now we've got Pinewood Hills Amusement Arcade signage up as well. Again, nice big garish signs. And then indoors, let's just switch the view here. We've got our foosball tables, red versus blue. We've got the Crazy Grabber and the Bunking Pickup, and all of our arcade machines are now in place. So Shooty Cops, these are just screens I've grabbed from the internet and sort of squished them a little so they fit onto the billboards. So we've got some Super Plumbing Man, we have Pock Boy, we have Sphere Craziness, and we have Run Out. There we go, just doing that to avoid the obvious copyright strikes. Grab a Ghoul, that's our own, so I can show you that one. And then finally, Gold Rush has had a bit of a pass. Like I say, a lot of them, they seem to have these huge areas at the top with some images on them and other things going on. So we added a coin slot, coin return, a coin entry point as well. You can probably see that a little bit better at daytime, actually. So places for the coins to go in. And then this sort of imaged area at the top that's often open for lights to be in them. So that's what we've done there. So thank you to Commander Santa, I think it was, sort of pointing me into the right direction, just tweaking that a little bit. And then the other thing we did as well is added this crazy sort of 60s wallpaper to go with our crazy 60s fake star. We've gone for a wooden floor, but here we've got some carpeted walls. It's really tacky. Actually, probably a little bit later than the 60s, maybe 70s, 80s even. But again, old and a bit naff. There's a little bit of space here. I think here I'd kind of like an air hockey table, so I might have another go at that. I say another go, I haven't had a go yet, but I might have a go at an air hockey table here. So anyway, moving out, let's have a look at the next little bit. So we've figured out the path is going to come down here into a lowered area. So here is going to be our coaster station. Okay, it's going to come down here, lift hill up and then down and across. It's going to be a back and forth. It's going to be there and back. Here is going to be our next ride. I actually placed it down. We put it on the live stream. This is next episode is going to be decorating this basically. So this second backstage area is going to come to about here. We're going to have some nice green foliage around the back here. It's going to come to close to the road. So you'll actually sort of hover over and see the odd glimpse of backstage and the odd glimpse of the main road. But I think for a smaller park like this, it's okay. I know we talked about this on the live stream actually. Places like Disney and other places in the UK like Butlins and stuff, they're very aware of sight lines and stuff, but I feel this smaller park would kind of stick a ride where they could. Also, I love the idea of this. Obviously this is all going to be covered up, this sort of smooth transition down through some nice bits of garden we're going to have here. Little walled garden areas. It's going to be great. Really looking forward to it. But any suggestions for the name or ideas for finishing off this area, let me know, because that is going to be next episode along with the backstage area over here as well. We'll try and cap that off. But we're really shaping up. There was a little bit of a feeling personally that in the last episode we didn't get that much done really. We built this toilet block. So I really wanted to have a good chunk of stuff to show you this time, which I think we have accomplished. Still not quite finished, but unfortunately I've just ran out of time for the week. I would normally, like I say, have a bit of a lighting pass, maybe finish off the amusements inside a little bit more. We also need to look at getting some food and drink around here as well, which is something we haven't been able to do yet, apart from the ice cream van. I suppose we could probably set up on the edge here somewhere, but really, yeah, we need some serious food and drink action going on. It's all these things that we've got to tackle. Like I say, please, any suggestions, thoughts, queries, pop them down below. This is our park. It's one that we're building together. Talking of being built together, Geekism community is working on their own community park. It's called Sparrow Falls. It's looking fantastic so far. If you'd like more information about that, you can join our Discord server. You'll find the link in the description. Somebody there will be able to point you in the direction of the community park Discord, where they're organising who does what. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give us a like. It really does help out the channel. And if you're not already, don't forget to subscribe. Any thoughts, queries or suggestions, you can pop them down in the comments. And if you just fancy a chat, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Jonty Sparrow. If you'd like to join in, like I say, with the Geekism community, you can do so over on our Geekism Discord server. Like I say, you'll find the link in the description. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.